What's going on, guys? We are back. We have a week off, obviously, but I'm coming on here. I'm going to do a little bit of a precursor, a little bit of a review. We also have some live situation going on here. So if you guys aren't watching the YouTube, we are actually shooting our YouTube show. This is a live sit-in for the Twitter followers. You could listen to the show live, or when it's all finished and put on YouTube, you can listen to it then. We're eventually going to go live on Twitter while we're doing YouTube. I just got to get some extensions and stuff for the microphones and for the studio. That's why it looks jerry-rigged. You'll see like a coffee cup in front of me with my phone. So people that are listening live on Twitter, I'm not sure how well you can hear me, but you're going to have to deal with it just for this show. So let's get into it. So we got a packed weekend of sports. Show's not going to be too long because we don't have a fight this weekend. I just want to go over a couple things. First, we got BKFC. A lot of people aren't talking about the BKFC this weekend. Big card in Philadelphia, Wells Fargo Center. Piggybacking off of, obviously, the Eagles playing this weekend. It's pretty amazing. You know, I got to be honest with you. It's pretty amazing.
Can't see you.
I know. This is an audio sit-in. Can you hear me, though?
Yeah, I can hear you nice.
Okay, good. Okay, so Bush was giving me the sound check. That's why he just walked in. So, you know, it's pretty amazing how far the BKFC has come in such a short period of time. And those of you who have been following it have seen the evolution and the growth. This is a place that, honestly, couldn't get a gig for a long time. People were looking down on it. Almost like if you guys who followed the UFC years and years and years ago, you guys remember how people looked at it. They looked at it as human cockfighting and stuff like that. And obviously, slowly but surely, it transcended into what it is today. I'm not saying the BKFC is going to be that. I'm not saying it's going to transcend into this UFC conglomerate, but it's on its way to doing some really nice things. I mean, it's in Philly. It's at the Wells Fargo. Apparently, there's only about 500 tickets left. They got Conor McGregor behind it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I got to be honest with you. Every time this guy does a presser or steps on stage, I don't know if he makes it better, if it's a little bit more comic relief, or he makes it worse. I don't know. I personally don't see how a business partner can tolerate him for too long. It seems like he takes a lot of the credit, talks about how he's the king of the room, bouncing all around the stage. He's just, there's something about him. It's almost like he wants to take the shine away from the fighters, even though he's not. It's just his personality. You know, so not sure how long that partnership's going to last, but as of right now, he's driving traffic. That's what he does. What is he going to do for his fighting career? I don't know. He was talking about how he was in all the pubs in Philly, hanging out with all the Philadelphians and stuff like that. So I really don't know. I'm not too positive on his return. But as far as BKFC, man, they're making strides. They got a big fight this weekend. Eddie Alvarez versus Jeremy Stephens, two guys that are veterans of, obviously, the Octagon. You know, and a lot of people are looking at this card. When you see the three guys on this card for the co-main and the main event, you see three guys that were former UFC guys, and the first thing come to mind is this is where the UFC fighters come to die. That's not the case. When you got a sport like this where it's bare knuckle, you're not worrying about takedowns, you're not worrying about, you know, you need so much athletic prowess, and it's a young man's game in the UFC. You can kind of alter over to something like bare knuckle where it's just fisticuffs. It's literally you're taking the gloves off and you're going. And a lot of these guys have reemergence of their career, and they're getting paid decent money. So I'm not against that. As far as the long-term effects and stuff like that, that's yet to be determined. But I like it, man. I love it. I've been following bare knuckle fighting for years, back when Bobby Gunn was fighting. You know, when literally these guys used to go to these back alleys. They used to go into these warehouses, and they would wear jeans. And the reason why they would wear jeans when they fought was because if the cops came and broke it up, they were able to blend in with the crowd. So if you had shorts on and you had, sneakers on and you had your hands all wrapped up and you had certain things that look like you're actually fighting, it's easy to pinch you out in the crowd. So back in the day, what these guys used to do is if it wasn't in the backyard like Kimbo Slice and stuff like that, when these guys were meeting up in warehouses and stuff, they literally would wear jeans. So they can blend in with the crowd if the cops came and broke it up. So I've been following it from back then. Eddie Alvarez, Jeremy Stephens, I think that's going to be a great fight. As of right now, I think it's even money. Obviously, Eddie Alvarez fighting at home in Philadelphia. when you look at Jeremy Stevens, when you look at his career in MMA, it wasn't so much that he was losing steam. It wasn't so much that he was losing his tread on his tires. It's the game evolves. The game just evolves. He still has hand speed. He still hits hard. Both of these guys still can crack. Both of these guys are exciting. Be a great fight. Then in the co-main, you got Mickey Terrell versus Ben Rothwell for the heavyweight championship. Obviously, if you guys have been following MMA for a while, you know who Big Ben Rothwell is. Kind of taking on a different approach here with BKFC. He's not so much of a odd, awkward guy playing that whole Star Wars role. If you guys remember, he used to come in acting like, a character in Star Wars and stuff like that. He's actually a well-spoken, good, humble guy. Just grateful to be where he is, so it's going to be a good card. The whole card. You got Beck Rollins fighting on the card. And like I said, Wells Fargo is apparently a packed house for this. I don't know if it's maybe because it's like an appetizer, very well planned out before the Philadelphia Eagles game. People coming in for the game. They said, what do you want to do on Saturday? Let's go to that fight. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But the sport is growing, and I'm glad to see it. Then we move on to the Sunday. We have, obviously, AFC and NFC, Chiefs versus Bills, Eagles versus Washington. Same old story with the AFC, right? We got, Chiefs and Bills. I guess everybody could have kind of guessed that. Doesn't need a fortune teller or a crystal ball to say it's probably how it was going to go. I'm riding with Washington in the Eagles game, and part of the reason is because in the very beginning I took a plus 1,600 on Washington to win the Super Bowl. Not saying that they're going to beat the Eagles, but I'm pulling for them. I think they got a very, very good chance. I think with Eckler back, I think Jaden Daniels keeping his turnovers extremely limited in the past couple of games. I think he's got 0 in the last 3 games. He's ice in his veins. The guy is playing out of his mind, and Eagles do make mistakes. Even though the Eagles defensively are very sound, they do cause their turnovers and stuff like that. It's going to be a great game. Not sure. I haven't checked the weather report, how weather's going to factor into these games. But for my money, I'm going Bills in Washington. I don't know what kind of bets I'm going to lay. I hit a plus 400 last week. I took Washington over Detroit, and that hit, and it's along with the long-running bet I have with them being to win the Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens. Last week's card, I want to go over that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the UFC upcoming card. That's basically why I'm shooting this video, doing a little bit of review on the off week, but I also want to give you a quick peek in on the UFC card, and I'm going to give you my kind of premeditated, soft predictions on the co-main and the main event. But last week's card, let me pull it up here because there was a couple things I did want to bring up. So obviously, a lot of people were talking about Renato Moicano kind of saving the day, right? And he did. I mean, he came in, he saved the day. He didn't put much of a fight. I mean, I think we can all agree. I think we all saw that coming. But at the end of the day, when the UFC, the great things that they do, and they do some really, really great things. They give us fights every week. They have some tremendous matchups. Look what he did for us during the pandemic, with the Apex Center. Dana White is usually spot on. But this is a situation where this rests in their lap. This fight should have never happened. The reason why this happened was because he didn't have a backup plan. So there was no backup plan. It was either he does not fight or he peels somebody from the card in the division to fight, to step in and fight. We could have gotten a better fight if they were more prepared. I personally don't think I think they were ill prepared for this. And it was really a no choice. It was a no-brainer. It was either going to nix the fight or we got to pull Moicano off the card. Kind of heart-wrenching for a guy like Dariush, who is an Orange County guy. He hasn't fought here in 7 years. He was really, really looking forward to that. Dana White apparently gave him, I know he gave him his show money. I don't know if he gave him his win money. There was rumblings that he got his win and show. It's not the point, though. The point is, you want to make your money, but he was excited to fight at home on his soil. So kind of gut-wrenching for him. I think we all saw how that fight was going to go. Right? We all saw how that fight was going to go. Islam Makhachev, Dana White has now announced and publicly that he is the greatest pound-for-pound fighter right now. As far as does he believe it, I don't know. If John Jones comes out and beats Aspinall, if that fight is signed, apparently it's in the works. If he wins that fight, is he going to jump right back on the John Jones train? Probably. But for my money, Islam's the best pound-for-pound that there is. And he just continues to prove it. Merab and Umar. I was on Merab ever since they announced the fight, and the reason why, it's just I can't get behind. When you look at this fight, I know the line was juiced for Umar for good reason. The guy's a really good talent. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He's a really good talent. But if you look at the overall body of work of both of these guys, and you're also disrespecting the champion, giving him pretty much a 2-to-1 price tag, how do you not take Merab? Like, how do you not take him? You got a guy who's fought everybody. You got a guy who's literally run through everybody. Maybe not run through him, but he's beaten all the top guys in the division. And then you got a guy in Umar. Yeah, he's beaten some good guys. He's shown some really good skill, but he's never been into those deep waters. He's never been really, really harshly tested over and over and over again like a guy like Merab has. Merab will take your style and make it look like it's no big deal. Make it look like just any other style, where a lot of these fighters are matchup predicated. And the big word on the street is, obviously, we all know Merab's cardio, right? We know Merab's cardio is a weapon. We talk about how weaponizing your cardio is an extremely extensive tool. It's a beneficial tool in all fighters. But what people don't understand is that, and I've done papers on this in college, cardio is highly genetic. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. They think that, maybe Umar didn't train hard enough. No, this guy's training in the hills of Dagestan. You trust me when I tell you, the rumblings that come out of that camp from the way those guys train, Khabib does not give you a break. Khabib does not let you rest. Khabib believes in just training and training and training. There's nothing that he could have done to out-swindle or outmatch Merab's cardio, because it's a genetic disposition. This is just genetics, and this is a fact. And any paper that you read, I'll be glad one day, maybe I'll post the papers, a couple papers if I can find them. I got to probably pull them out of my mother's house. But some of the papers we've done in college about, where the genetics lie, and a lot of it is a few things. 3 of them to really take the cake, and one of them is the VO2 max. Genetically, that will tell you where your VO2 max is. Certain people can work to their best VO2 max, and it's good. You'll always be better. You'll always be the best version of yourself. But certain people have a capacity of a higher VO2 max. It's just heritable. It's just it's hereditary. It's genetic, just what it is. And there's the cardio and the conditioning predispositions are 70% genetic, and there's been up to 70%. Some of them 50, some of them 60. It depends what report you read. But most of them are really highly genetic. Another one is your muscle fiber type, your mitochondrial type, and your oxygen utilization. That's very high too, and that's also genetic. That's extremely. You can't change your fiber types. You can't change your mitochondrial. You can't change it. You can't alter your DNA like that. So it's highly, highly genetic. And then the last thing, and the most important thing, is your training response. Now, when you take all these variables and you put them together, that's going to tell you how you respond to a certain exercise. That's how your cardio and your conditioning is, and your VO2 max is going to respond to that certain training response. If you can't find the proper training response, or your body just doesn't respond to those training methods, you're going to be capped. There's going to be a ceiling. Somebody like Merab has a disposition for cardio I've never seen in my life. I would dare to say he's probably got the best conditioning of any athlete I've ever seen in my life, because I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't know. It just seems like he gets better as the rounds go on. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen guys come out, have good cardio. When you're shooting 30 takedowns and you're missing half of them, do you have any idea how much cardio that takes, how much conditioning that takes? And then to keep pushing forward and making jokes in the 5th round against a really, really dangerous guy. I've never seen anything like it. And, then you add that with the style that he fights. Now, if he was a striker, maybe things would be different. Maybe your cardio really doesn't matter at that point. But if you take his genetic code of his conditioning and his cardio, and you add the style and the pace that he fights, and then you add the durability. He's a pretty durable guy. I wouldn't say he's the most durable guy in the world. I wouldn't rely on his chin in a 5-round fight, but he's pretty durable. When you tie all those factors together, who's going to beat him? Like, who's really going to beat him? He's not the greatest wrestler in the world. He's not the greatest athlete in the world. He's not the fastest guy in the world. His striking isn't that great. He is just a motor. Like, he literally is an endless motor, and the guy has gears for days, and we really don't know. For all we know, this guy can go 12 rounds. And it's said that some of the things that he's done has been, insane, from a cardio standpoint, from the training room and from things like that. So I don't see many people beating him. I see him losing when he slows down, when his body tells him it's time to slow down, or if somebody does catch him. So, Merab, very impressive. I mean, just to see what he did to Umar, the way he drowned in him like that, was a sight to see. Yuri and Jamal Hill, both of these guys I've screamed from mountaintops. I don't think any of these guys are good. I said Jamal Hill will probably not sniff a belt again, and I'm going to stand by that. Yuri might get another title shot, but he will not win a title. I believe that too. I believe both of these guys are, you got Yuri. Listen, I wouldn't say that Yuri impressed me in that fight. I would say that Jamal Hill definitely looked a step slower than he usually does. He was lunging with his jab. As he was lunging, like, everything just didn't look technically tied together. Jamal Hill usually, out of all bad things I do say about him, he is a pretty technical guy. He's pretty technically sound when it comes to his striking. He throws everything down the middle. He's pretty responsible when he's attacking offensively. I don't know if it was because Yuri was throwing him off with all these crazy patterns and crazy movements, but he was lunging a lot. And it seemed like that counter for Yuri was there every single time he threw it. It was like he knew, all right, this guy's going to come in with a jab, and he's going to lean in, and I'm going to counter him. And that's exactly how Yuri beat him. It was the same pattern over and over and over that Jamal Hill either didn't read, or he just didn't have enough tricks in his bag to really get in close enough. And this was really the only process that he had. So, I mean, fun fight, super, super fun fight. Both guys put it all out on the line. Not shitting on Jamal, not shitting on Yuri. I just personally don't think they're really good fighters. I just don't. I think they matched up really well for this fight, so we got a really good fight. But not impressed with either guy. Jailton Almeida and Spivak. Almeida did what Almeida does. I mean, I'm a little surprised that it happened as quick as it did. Spivak is a tough guy. Not talked about enough coming out of Moldova. Really no marketing coming out of there. I remember I ordered something from Moldova one time, and my mailman's like, I think you're the only person to ever get a piece of mail from Moldova. It's for real. One time I ordered something from Moldova. So think about, where's the marketing over there? So he's not spoken about enough, but he's a talented guy. Kevin Holland, I think we're all at the point now, it's the fade the Kevin Holland train. I mean, this guy is just fadeable from all angles. Unless you're giving him a guy where he signs a contract and says, I am not going to take you to the ground, I think he's a dangerous play. The guy just doesn't learn. It doesn't learn. I think he knows that he's in a position with the UFC that he's always there for them. He's always going to come in. He's always going to fight if he gets the call. He's a crowd favorite. No matter how many fights he loses in a row, people tend to resonate with him. And sometimes a shitty record will kind of be overlooked when you have somebody who is marketable, and you have somebody who's fun, and you have somebody who has got a good persona and jokes around a lot. It's a shame because he has the ability to be a really, really good fighter. Like, he really, really does. He just doesn't understand how to game plan and how to tie things together, and maybe how to search for different avenues within coaching and teams to get him where he wants to be. And the clock is ticking. So I think he is what he is. I think he's a full fade on a lot of fights going forward. Now, the big one for us in the Mad Lab MMA was this fight here. And the reason why is we launched a product called the Fight Brain. And basically what the Fight Brain is, it's a culmination of data, metrics, matchups, historical statistics to kind of give us this end game of probability. So basically what it does, it will give you, statistics, metrics, they're grappling, the way they match up in grappling, the way they match up with striking. And these aren't my predictions. I do my own separate link on my page with my predictions. This is literally the Fight Brain predictions. And when I personally first saw this fight being announced, I was like, Payne Talbot should win this fight, but it's a dangerous fight. Like, this is a dangerous fight. Like, Hani Barcelos, at one point in time, I used to get mad. I used to be like, why are they shitting on this guy so much? Like, why they won't take this guy off the prelims? This guy was on like a 7-fight win streak, and they would not take this guy off the prelims. There's something about him they didn't like. So when I saw that he was put on the prelims again, okay, even though, like I said, he's taken a turn for the worse, as of late, getting older. Chin hasn't been holding up as well, but they put him on the main fight of the prelims. Not for him. This is for Peyton Talbot. And I said, well, this is what they're doing. They're putting this kid against him. Yeah, sure, he's not the Hany Barcelos that he used to be, but he's still a name. And for the people that do know MMA and for the people that have followed Hony's career, knows that this guy was a really, really high pedigree wrestler, just a good, high-paced, high-pressure fighter. So I'm saying if we can get like a portion of that, if we can get a portion of Barcelos, this is going to be a good fight. This is going to be an interesting fight. But I personally picked Talbot. I personally went with the UFC portion of the business. I said they put him on this for the reason. They're not going to utilize Talbot as a stepping stone for him or, take this kid's, shine away when the UFC loves him. They're not doing much with Hany. He's getting older. Where is he really going to go from here if he wins? So the business of the UFC really wants Peyton to win this fight. Makes sense. So I personally was on Talbot. However, the fight brain was all over Hany Barcelos. And they had Hany Barcelos by decision. They literally had every one of his statistics correct at the end of the fight, from takedowns to control time to strikes. It was actually scary to see that like you created this fucking monster that literally pinned it. Not only this fight, with a bunch of fights. So what I did was I obviously took that into the DFS portion of it. And I told these guys, look, like I'm picking Peyton. I don't like Peyton Talbot's price, but Hany Barcelos seems like he's a full play value-wise. And a lot of our guys cash because of the fight brain, because of that prediction. So as far as the fight brain, what we're doing is we're giving it another job responsibility coming in for the next week. Those of you that aren't involved in the newsletter, come into the newsletter, go to themadlabmma.com. It's completely free. Sign up. We do, newsletters all week. We'll give you free picks. I have a free pick coming for this weekend. Also, we do something called the Transparency Report, where we are completely transparent with how we did that week. We don't hold no punches. We make fun of ourselves. When we lose, we give it to you right there. And you don't have to be a member to see the Transparency Report. You can see what I'm doing from week to week. Some embarrassing moments, some really highlighted moments. Some of the guys that do our NFL with us, Mikey Marangeli, is on a tear right now. He's up like 40 units in NFL. J-Mac just hit. He's in the finals for the NFL for 500,000. So yeah, I throw some shine at the guys, but also we talk about our losses. So it's called the Transparency Report. And I'm also going to be talking about the new job responsibility for the Fight Brain, because this thing is actually a little scary. So we also got the Roster Bully tool, which is a completely filterable tool, where you do all your homework. It's an organizational tool for yourself. And you want to know on the card, every single fighter, who's got the most takedowns, it's filterable that way. You want to know who has the most knockouts, it's filterable that way. Who's been subbed the most, who's been knocked out the most, you could filter the entire card that way. So it's a great tool, but this was one of the standout moments for that tool, and it's only been launched for a week. So I'm looking forward to see where it goes from there. Zach Reese and Bekov. Listen, this was a kind of an odd fight to me. I didn't really know where to go on this fight, but I think we could all say, like, listen, Bekov, he's usually a boring fighter. I didn't expect this to end like this, but then you got to start questioning Zach Reese going forward. Guskov and Elikana, I got to be honest with you, Guskov put himself in some bad situations in this fight where I'm not super gauged on where I put him in my mind as far as what kind of fighter do I think he is. Did he win the fight? Yeah. But in that first round, he did not look like a fighter who's ready for the big time. Grant Dawson, I have no idea why people continue to fade this guy. It just blows me away. This guy's one of the most solid guys in the UFC. I mean, it's insane to me. And how he still doesn't get the shine that he deserves. He's another one that just doesn't get the shine that he deserves. I've seen the world all over Diego Ferreira. And listen, I'm a Diego Ferreira guy. I think he's amazing. 4th-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, very high level, good striking, always game. But where people thought that he was going to beat a guy like Grant Dawson, who's just a top-heavy pressure wrestler, who's going to get on top of you, who's going to make you carry his weight, who's got great weight distribution. His only flaw is his striking, and his striking is, gradually getting better. So that was one of the lock plays for me, Grant Dawson. I love that guy when he fights. Aileen Perez won. The biggest shit on the card was Nakamura. And I got to be honest with you, this is another fight where I don't know where to put him now. A lot of people are calling him garbage. A lot of people are saying he's a fade. A lot of people are saying that he's a hype train. I'm not going to not agree with you, but I'm also going to blame some of this on a absolutely horrible game plan. I mean, absolutely horrible game plan. I don't know, what to think of him. He didn't try to go to the ground. I mean, this is a guy who's got a dominant wrestling game, a high pedigree elite wrestling game, and he did not even attempt to take it there. So I can't tell you. It's almost like me being a striker, going into the cage with somebody for 3 minutes and for 3 rounds, and everybody knows I'm a striker because I talk about it all the time. And all of a sudden, I abandon my striking and I still just try to grapple. You're going to be like, what is he doing? I don't even know how well he would have did if he actually would have tried to keep it on the feet and striking. The same thing here. Nakamura is he's known for his wrestling. I understand he's a young kid. He wants to get his hands going. He wants to be known as a well-rounded mixed martial arts fighter. It's totally, totally fine. But how you not incorporate your wrestling in that fight just blows me away. That was the one fight on the card I was completely, completely blown away over. Even over Merab's cardio, because we all knew that Merab had great cardio. But even over that, it was kind of disturbing to watch. Tercio Sopaj, a fight that you knew was going to be good. A lot of people shit on Tercios. I don't think he's as bad as people think. And like I said, when you have that move forward ability and you have that durability and you have that dog in you, you can kind of supplement skill, athleticism, and talent, a little bit. And you can have that where, look at guys like The Damage, Darren Elkins, not the most athletic guy in the world, not super explosive, not a guy who's going to blow your hair back with dynamics and these crazy spinning back fists and stuff, but he's a dog. He's got good cardio. He's a durable guy. And he utilizes that to his favor. So that's what Ricky Tercios kind of does. It just wasn't enough. And then the last fight, the first fight of the card was Ulanbekov. And that fight was interesting to me, right? Because, I like Clayton Carpenter. I think a lot of people do. A lot of people, no matter if you picked Ulanbekov or not, you've respected Clayton Carpenter. Good fighter, good prospect, kid coming up. Only reason why I couldn't pick him in this spot is because when you look at Ulanbekov, this is a guy who's actually in camp with Umar and Islam. I mean, at the same time, what kind of camp did they have? So it was really, really hard for me to pick Carpenter in this spot. So Ulanbekov looked good. It was a good fight. Carpenter looked good in the fight. Can't wait to see what he does next. But overall, it was an okay card. But I got to be honest with you, the card coming up next weekend is actually going to be a really good card. At first, when I was looking at it, you see UFC Fight Night, right? When it first was announced. And the first thing I'm thinking is, oh, my God, they're putting Adesanya on an Apex card. And I was like, I imagine how the mighty has fallen. And then when I realized it was, over the pond somewhere, now I understand there's going to be a crowd there. It's a big event. It's a big deal. It's not just an Apex card. It made a little bit more sense. Early fight time, guys. So those of you guys that are members, we're probably going to be doing our live stream on Friday night instead of Saturday. We usually do it on Saturday, so we're going to do it on Friday night. It starts at 6 a.m. my time, which is the West Coast, which is 9 a.m. on the East Coast. So it's an early fight card. The main card starts at 9 a.m. my time, 12 p.m. your time. But still, I'm not getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do a live stream. So we'll end up doing the live stream on Friday night. If you guys are interested, you guys want to see all the breakdowns, you want to see all the tools, the new Fight Brain that we launched, come to the madlabmma.com. Join the Discord. We're going to be in there all weekend this weekend, sweating BKFC. We'll be doing the NFC championship game. Everybody's betting on the AFC, everything. So it's not just MMA. I mean, obviously, that's what people come for, the detailed information. But we have a full NFL package. And if you join, now, before the season ends, we will give you NFL next year for free. We've been doing really, really well. We have a roster bully tool for the NFL as well, which is working out really well. But these two fights, let's stop talking about that. And the main event, you got Izzy versus Imavov. And look, man, I could see this being a situation where people do what they always do with Izzy, right? They forget. They just forget how good this dude is. And sure, he's 35 years old. Sure, he's been through it. He's had some wars. He's been Hasn't looked as great as he once did. But is that really he hasn't looked as great as he once did, or is it because people are really starting to understand the game plan of him now? Didn't look terrible against Dricus, even though he lost. But even if he did, look at the guys he's fighting. He lost Dricus du Plessis. He lost to Sean Strickland. Two guys that you can't really shame him for. They're not bad fighters. And one of them's the champion. One of them, is Sean Strickland, who's fighting for the belt next. And was the champion, So when you look at that and you look at the way those fights kind of played out, he was actually doing well in both of those fights. He was doing very well in both of those fights. Then obviously we all know the shot heard around the world when he knocked out Alex Pereira. Then he lost Alex Pereira. The guy's still a massive, massive talent. The guy's still extremely well-versed, good striking, good takedown defense. Yeah, sure, he's not a grappler, but everybody has tried, and a lot of people have failed. So if you're looking at that, if you're going to go down that same route with, he's 35, he's getting older, he just lost 2 in a row, I think you're making a big mistake. I think you're making a really, really big mistake. When you look at Imavov, Brendan Allen won a decision. Jared Cannonier, Roman Dolidze, no contest with Chris Curtis. He lost to Sean Strickland, beat Joaquin Buckley, beat Edmund Shabazian. He beat good guys. I'm not saying he's not good. I think he's a very, very good fighter. But I think that the issue coming down with him in this fight, I honestly think is going to be the pace of the pace as it goes down the stretch. I do. I think it's going to be the pace as it goes. Now, I haven't dove in too deep on this fight yet. This is like a soft prediction. But I just see Izzy kind of running away with just having way too much arsenal on him when it comes to striking. Just way too much. Being in those 5-round fights like it's a scrimmage game. I mean, this guy, he lives in 5-round fights. I mean, if you look at his career, it's all 5 rounds. Izzy's just a 5-round machine. Yeah, sure, he's lost 2 fights, his last 2 fights. But his body is equipped and used to this. And he's the far better striker. He's got far more technical ability. He's sharper. He's more accurate. He's more responsible offensively. Where Imavov gets very sloppy as he slows down. I mean, he gets very, very sloppy. Now, you got to start questioning, I get it, the chin of Izzy. You got to wonder, is that going to play a role here? It could. It could. All these things can factor in. It's fighting. We know sometimes the better fighter doesn't always win. We talk about that all the time. But I think if he's rejuvenated and he's refreshed, and sometimes I think you need that, and he doesn't have that pressure on him, and he doesn't, you got to remember, he's got, at one point in time, Izzy was carrying that stone, man. Like, he was carrying that burden where he just had the target on his back. Doesn't have that no more. He just has to come in and fight loose. That's it. Where a guy like Imavov he's trying to get to the pinnacle. He's still trying to get to the top. Izzy's just coming in to fight loose. This is actually a step down in competition for Izzy. So this to me is, where is Izzy mentally? Where is he physically? What does he want out of this? Is he just coming in to fight to get to get a payday, or is he coming in rejuvenated with a new headspace, looking to take one fight at a time? So that's the way I'm looking at this, and I just think it's very, very hard to pick against Adesanya in a fight like this. So I'm going Adesanya. I will have a full, obviously, prediction next week, but I just wanted to get this one out. And then we have, in the co-main event, which is an interesting fight as well, we have we have MVP versus Ian Gary. No, we don't. What am I talking about? You have MVP versus the Pirate, which is going to be... Actually, that's an interesting fight. The reason why I had Ian Gary in my notes was because I wanted to talk about that fight. First of all, I'm not super impressed with Shower Bullet. There's a business aspect to this, too, that you guys got to remember. So when you look at this guy, first of all, he's got to fight. He can't fight in the States. He can't fight in the United States. I don't know if it ever came out. I never got that note, but I know he's not allowed to fight over here. That's a bad business thing. How are you going to have a champion that can only fight overseas, right? So although he's a character, although he's got that, the UFC starves for those characters sometimes, what good is a champion if he can only fight over there and he can't come to America? That is a financial disaster to have somebody who holds a belt holds the belt over there, can never come over here to fight. I mean, it's kind of a business disaster, So, but he's winning, But he's winning. He's a character. He got a movie role. He's an intimidating dude. On paper, he's super, super talented. I just have not been impressed with him. I'm sorry, but I have not been impressed with him. I think he's a good striker. I think that's all that he is. I think there's spots where he can't get his body out of gear into that next gear where he allows you to stay within the fight. Do I think he's good? Yeah. Do I think it would be a financial disaster for the UFC if this guy ever became champion without getting the nod to be able to come into this country? 1,000%. I don't see how. It's almost like I was complaining about Inoue, right? So Inoue fought 4 o'clock in the morning. He fought, okay, and nobody even knows it. And Inoue is the best pound-for-pound boxer right now, for my money. I mean, there's some good ones that you can argue it. But Inoue right now is the best pound-for-pound boxer right now for my money. He fought at 4 a.m. because he just never comes over here. He never comes over to the States. Therefore, you're taking away, unless you're a full-blown boxing head, you have no idea who Inoue is, and he's one of the best boxers out there today, if not the best pound-for-pound, for my money. But he's always fighting over there. So to me, it's a financial disaster for him to become champion. But he's fighting Michael Venom Page, and this is a fight where honestly, if you look at Michael Venom Page when he fought Ian Gary, say what he wanted, he's 37 years old, but listen, it's arguable that fight could have went either way. A lot of people had it for Gary. Several people had it for Michael Venom Page. Several people had it a draw, including Dana White and myself. I kind of was teetering on the Michael Venom Page side, probably a little bit of bias because I wanted him to win because I had a bet in on Michael Venom Page. But it was a really, really close fight. It was a really, really close fight. And I think that what happens in a stylistic matchup like this with Cheryl Bullet and Michael Page is it's going to be such a clash in styles with striking. Because usually you'll have a guy like Michael Venom Page against Ian Gary, who Gary's the more technical guy. Gary's the more fundamentally sound guy. He's got the more traditional footwork. He throws the traditional jab. He throws the traditional combinations. He's, you could kind of telegraph. You can kind of see when he's going to throw. If you understand striking and you watch a technical, fundamentally sound guy, you can kind of tell what he's going to throw, when he's going to throw, what he's trying to bait, how he's trying to bait it. It's just fundamentals. But when you get a guy like Michael Venom Page in there, that can cause a problem. But now you're getting two guys in there that are completely off the chains and chaotic. They don't have a tempo. They don't really have a rhythm. They both fight very, very sporadically. They throw crazy spinning back fists, and they're just very off tempo. So how do you read that? So it's going to be kind of like two awkward, goofy foot fighters with dynamics and athleticism just clashing. I just think Michael Venom Page has more to offer. I think he has more to offer. I think he's got the ability to fight a lot longer. He fights with his hands down. He kind of hops, but when he does, shoot that jab out from his hip, even though he does shoot it from his hip, he really gets the full extension on it. I just think he understands how to get the full extension on things where Cheryl Bullet seems to open up in spots, but he likes to fight on the inside. So I'm going to go Michael Venom Page. I think he's going to be a little bit too confusing for him in there. I think you don't realize how confusing he is until you're in there with him, where Cheryl Bullet gives you very dynamic looks, but he also gives you a sense of traditional, fundamentally sound, just like feet to the ground kind of fighting. I'll go Michael Venom Page. I'll say Michael Venom Page by decision. So we'll have a full show next week. I just wanted to come up and touch on some things here. And that's it, boys. Enjoy the fights, BKFC. Enjoy the games. And then we'll see you next week for the fights.